We stand today before the gates of one of our temples of finance, where greed and profit are the highest good, where self-worth is determined by the ability to amass wealth and power at the expense of others, where laws are manipulated, rewritten, and broken, where the endless treadmill of consumption defines human progress, where fraud and crimes are the tools of business. The two most destructive forces of human nature, greed and envy, drive the financiers, the bankers, the corporate mandarins, and the leaders of our two major political parties, all of whom profit from this system. They place themselves at the centers of creation. They disdain or ignore the cries of those below them. They take from us our rights, our dignity, and thwart our capacity for resistance. They seek to make us prisoners in our own land. They view human beings and the natural world as mere commodities to exploit until exhaustion or collapse. Human suffering, imperial wars, climate change, poverty, it is all the price of business. Nothing to them is sacred. The Lord of profit is the Lord of death. The Pharisees of high finance, who can see us this morning from their cubicles and corner offices, mock virtue. Life for them is solely about self-gain. The suffering of the poor is not their concern. The 6 million families thrown out of their homes are not their concern. The tens of millions of pensioners whose retirement savings were wiped out because of their fraud and dishonesty are not their concern. The failure to halt carbon emissions is not their concern. Justice is not their concern. Truth is not their concern. A hungry child is not their concern. Fyodor Dostoevsky in Crime and Punishment understood the radical evil behind the human yearning not to be ordinary, but to be extraordinary. The desire that allows men and women to serve systems of self-glorification and naked greed. Raskolnikov in the novel believes, like those in this temple, that humankind can be divided into two groups. The first is composed of ordinary people. These ordinary people are meek and submissive. They do little more than reproduce other human beings in their own likeness, grow old and die. And Raskolnikov is dismissive of these lesser forms of human life. The second group, he believes, is extraordinary. These are, according to Raskolnikov, the Napoleons of the world, those who flaunt law and custom, those who shred conventions and traditions to create a finer, more glorious future. Raskolnikov argues that although we live in the world, we can free ourselves from the consequences of living with others, consequences that will not always be in our favor. The Raskolnikovs of the world place unbridled and total faith in the human intellect. They disdain the attributes of compassion, empathy, beauty, justice, and truth. And this demented vision of human existence leads Raskolnikov to murder a pawnbroker and steal her money. The priests in these corporate temples in the name of profit kill with even more ruthlessness, finesse, and cunning than Raskolnikov. Corporations let 50,000 people die last year in this country because they could not pay for medical care. They have killed hundreds of thousands of Iraqis and Afghanis, Palestinians and Pakistanis, and gleefully watched as the stock price of weapons contractors quadrupled. They have turned cancer into an epidemic in the coal fields of West Virginia, where families breathe polluted air, drink poisoned water, and watch the Appalachian Mountains blasted into a desolate wasteland while coal companies make billions. And after looting the U.S. Treasury, these corporations demand, in the name of austerity, that we abolish food programs for children, heating assistance, and medical care for our elderly, and public education. They demand that we tolerate a permanent underclass that will leave 1 in 6 workers without work, that condemns tens of millions of Americans to subsistence living and tosses our mentally ill onto heating grates.